sister's a therapist and I tell jokes. We both want to help all kinds of folks.
Hello, and welcome to My Sister's a Therapist. My name's Virginia Jones, and I named this podcast because my sister's a therapist, and here she is.
Hello, I'm Laura Ryan. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and my sister, Virginia Jones, is a stand-up comedian. And this week is Virginia's topic, so tell me more.
We were talking about maybe starting another podcast called My Sister's a Comedian, but we don't honestly know what that would be.
It's going to be real interesting. Yeah, we should record them back to back and see which one fares better. That's the ticket.
So, yes, we've been asked to explain whose topics are whose. As a general, if you're a repeated listener, you've already figured out if something is kind of pop culturally and has very little redeeming value, it's probably my topic. The topic is therapeutic and depressing. It's probably Laura's.
If you find yourself never laughing, it's probably my topic.
If you find yourself learning but not laughing, it might be Laura's topic. So today's topic is, I'm calling Not Kidding, because my sister and I are on different sides of the motherhood decision. I am not having children. So I kind of wanted to talk about how that happened and in general, like trends in motherhood in the United States stuff.
I also realized in our brothers, we have the same split. One has kids, one doesn't.
That is true. Roughly, we're like at 75-25.
Yeah.
I don't know. Numbers.
You and our younger brother are minorities.
Yes. So it's a little bit interesting to me because although we are from the same family of origin and didn't have the same experience, but had very similar experiences, you and I came out of it on very different paths, right? I have always known that I did not want kids. And maybe not always, like maybe not when I was little, but as soon as I approached childbearing age, I knew I didn't want to. And you have always been very directed towards having a child, and you have a beautiful one who we like a lot.
I am fond of him.
Yes, we're both fond of him. I think you a little more than me.
I would hope that would be the breakdown. It would be pretty weird if it were the other way around.
But, I think he's great. And that's another thing. Like, people sometimes think that people who don't want to have children hate children or just like terrible, like Ebenezer Scrooge or Grinch type people. I like children. I like being around them. So how I think it broke down in our family particularly is because I am the eldest. When our family fell apart, I was assumed to take on the maternal role by my dad. We've talked about it a little bit before, how when our parents divorced, my dad essentially moved out. And then he was like, well, you kids take care of the whole like house and everything.
Yeah. Hey, you're 9. You can live independently, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was 13, so I had a big advantage there.
You know what? But mom moved out on my birthday, so I was 10.
Yeah. My brother and my sister, the first 3 of us, are a very offensive term called Irish triplets.
Because Catholicism. And for us, it was because Mormonism.
Right. You know what? It's a different flavor, but it eats the same.
The net is that you have a horribly overworked woman with way too many kids.
So I felt like I kind of had a taste of the motherhood experience, raising my brother and sister and doing, honestly, a poor job. And Laura, how do you think being the middle child affected your desire to have children, or where did your desire to have children come from, do you think?
I really feel like this is a lot like Christmas. You said, not for me. And I said, I'm going to make Christmas so amazing that no one will ever forget it. So I think that we're both overcorrecting. And I overcorrected in this area because I thought, okay, I'm going to bring a child into this world and I'm going to give them everything I didn't have. And I'm going to create the life that I wish that my parents had provided for me.
And you're a really good mom, from what I can tell.
I think I'm probably a C- at this point, but we'll see.
I mean, everybody thinks that, but
I wish more people did. I think that would go a long way. I think a lot of people think they're really good parents and they're not.
Really freaking nailing it.
Right.
You are thinking a lot about your own childhood and the things you lacked and providing those for your kid in spades. He is almost too confident and too self-assured.
Is that possible?
He approaches all things with a certainty that he can do them, even though some of the other things like driving a car or putting together a vacuum cleaner.
I love that for him because I know that the world is going to smash him down into nothing. So I think if you start off a little bit ahead, then when the world comes and squashes its thumb on your face, it won't be as bad.
Yeah. I didn't connect the fact that I didn't want kids with my upbringing until I started like reading about other people who'd taken on these kind of parental responsibilities and said, well, I've had this experience.
So what did you think? Like, why did you think you didn't want to have kids?
I just thought it was inborn. Like, that's, if that's your truth and it's inside of you and you observe other people having different experiences, you're like, well, this is just not for me. And the sad thing is that many of my traits that I have been proud of, that I have associated with myself, that I have identified with, I have come to find are just trauma response.
Yeah. Coping strategies.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I'm 1,000,000 years old. I've seen the attitudes about child-free people kind of change, right?
Yes. I mean, I think even obviously in our lifetime, but if you really look at even like since the 50s, it's wildly different.
Well, if you compare people in the 50s to today, the only way you were going to not have kids really was not having sex. Like,
right.
The only way you could guarantee that you weren't going to have kids was to be a spinster because of the pill, birth control. Definitely you could use condoms, but like you can't, I don't think, depend on that long term, especially when there's a man involved.
Right.
So I think until the 60s, women really didn't have a choice whether they were going to have kids or not. Everyone was pretty much going to have kids, one way or another. So even the choice, the fact that this is a choice is very new. If it's 1950 and you're married, you're going to have kids. Even if your husband's queer, you're going to figure out having kids and do it.
It's a societal expectation also.
I guess because women can have kids, it's thought that we're supposed to. When I was growing up, when I told people I didn't want to have kids, like we all hear the same things, like you'll change your mind when you get older. And it's like, at this point, I am older.
Wait till you're in your mid 60s. Then you're going to wake up and regret.
Like, oh no. What I've always found really weird about this decision and any personal decision is the fact that people feel like they have any say whatever.
Yeah. I was actually just had a long convo with, we were talking about a person that I mentioned in an episode we just recorded. And he was so obsessed with the fact that I didn't eat meat. Like it was his own personal goal to just somehow slip a steak in my mouth. I don't know what the fixation was. And I think it's that same thing. Well, I do it, so you have to do it.
Right. And it's been observed that other people, like that sometimes parents will talk up parenthood and child rearing in an attempt to trick other people into doing it.
Well, they're giving you the annotated version. I feel like it's the same as marriage, like, oh, your wedding day is going to be fantastic.
So beautiful.
And it probably will be. And then you have to spend the rest of your life married to a man.
Right. And you have to spend the rest of your life either raising a child or being worried about a child. Another thing that I just read a quote by a man who's molded a lot of my life, Robert Smith, and famous person. He's a rich person and he and his wife never wanted kids. And he's said a lot of things about it. The two that I think the best are, he has said, I don't want to have kids because I want my relationships with Mary to be what it always was. I always want us to be what we have been together, and kids will change that. And then this morning I read a quote from him where he said, I don't want to have kids because I didn't love being born. And I've also felt that way. I think it's very strange. Like when you're born, it's like you come out of your mom holding a ticket and it's a debt and you have to pay it with your death. Like when you make a child, you're making someone that has to die. And I'm just not crazy about it.
I think it's more like, for me, I feel like having a child means that I will be constantly indebted to another person. Like I owe him a good life.
Right. Now, some more facile parts of not kid having is that I do want to be selfish. I very much want to do what I want to do all the time. Another quote I've always thought about is from Impromptu. It's a Mandy Patinkin's line, and it's artists shouldn't have kids. And because you can't be as selfish when you have a child, art, you're going to have to separate the parts of your life. Impromptu is a movie that me and my best friend in college watched compulsively. It came out in 1991. It's largely forgotten. I still think it's great. It is Hugh Grant at the very beginning of his stuttering and stammering as a sexual overture career.
Advance, yes.
And it's before he perfects it, but he really just trembles and mutters his whole way through this film. And also has very good hair. But to make a decision, and I'm not a fine artist. I am a writer and
you're fine and you're an artist. Bam.
I'm an artist, Goyle. But I think it's hard for women to do both. And I would, I would rather not have to make that decision or separation. I heard a young comic say it really well. She was like, I don't think I'm going to have a kid because like, where would I put it? Like in a drawer? Like I live in Los Angeles and like, what am I going to feed it? Like sometimes I have half a burrito. Now I have to split that with a baby.
Yes, that's how it works.
So I want to talk about trends in birth rates. From where I sit with the friends that I have and living in Los Angeles, where you really can't afford to have a child. Like it's a huge, like until you like get a show, like that's when you can afford to have a child.
I can't afford to have a child currently.
Right. And so it looks to me like the birth rate has gone way down. In fact, it hasn't. There was a little dip before the pandemic. And then a lot of people.
What time frame are you looking at?
I'm looking like in the last 5 years.
I see. I feel like millennials are not having as many kids as our generation, though.
That's true. What is happening is that the birth rate has neither increased nor decreased sharply, but in rare good news, teen births have declined sharply.
That is good news.
Yeah. The teen birth rate dropped to a record low in 2022, 13.5 births for every 1,000 people between 15 and 19.
That's amazing.
And that's down from 13.9 in 2020. And the thing that I find interesting is you and I were definitely brought up with a lot of messaging around not being a teen parent and the dangers of being like, it was so drilled into me that like the time I stopped being scared of being a teen parent was when I was 30. I was like, I don't have to worry about that.
No. And like I found out when I was in my late 30s that my mom was right. If you don't use birth control, you will become pregnant. Here's just a fun fact. Millennials are opting not to have kids. A 2021 poll by Pew Research found that 44% of childless adults say that they're unlikely to have children, up sharply from 37%. So
that is a big increase. I wonder if that will change for them in the next 5 years or not. But I mean, emotionally, I am a millennial.
Spiritually, I'm Gen Alpha.
So the trend that's happening right now is that younger people are having fewer children, which is great and a gift and a blessing. And then women over 40 are having more children. So they're kind of like in the grand scheme of things, evening out.
So yes, if you look at the most unplanned children happen to women over 40 because they all think that they're not going to get pregnant.
Right. Because we definitely receive messaging that when you're over 30, you're basically useless.
You're dried up.
A dried up old crone and you can't get pregnant. Who possibly could? Someone in our family put a lot of pressure on Laura to have a kid when she was in her 30s. And then after Laura had a kid, said, oh yeah, my grandmother had a kid when she was 52. And we're like, well, that would have been great information to have.
Right. Like our great grandmother had 2 pregnancies after the age of 40 in the 1920s.
Yeah.
So she didn't have any assistance at all.
It is possible. Like one of the things that people have said to me about having kids, one, they say, oh, who's going to take care of you when you're older? I'm like, if that's your motivation for having children, that's a terrible motivation.
Well, and in fact, I have a friend who did not think that she wanted children until she worked in a nursing care facility and found that people without kids did not get treated as well as people who had advocates, basically. As long as you have advocates, you don't have to give birth to anybody.
I'm doing for me specifically. For me specifically, I don't want to have to choose between being creative and doing the things I want to do and traveling and having kids.
You don't want to give them half your burrito.
I do not want to give them half my burrito.
So you don't have enough resources to share with a child, which is probably accurate.
And like sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. But the times that I've been broke, it's been an active thought in my mind. I'm like, I'm glad it's just me.
Yes, it's terrifying when you have another person relying on you and you're broke.
It's the rest of your life.
It's the rest of my life. And specifically because of the way the economy is going, like what I'm hearing is most kids are not moving out until they're in their like mid-20s. So that's something to look forward to.
Another argument people have presented to me is like, don't you feel like it's your duty to have children to replace yourself? And I'm like, plenty of other people have replaced plenty of other people. Like we are doubling and trebling our population. Our family has a lot of mental illness.
Yes.
And I'm just like, Dana Gould's joke about it, why he didn't have bio children, adopted a lot of lovely daughters. In family of origin, it's basically like my penis is a gun.
Yes. So You don't want a kid who might have bipolar, schizophrenia, major depressive disorder, addiction issues, and definitely be fat.
Right. I don't know why not. Yeah. So, and I've also been talking on stage about how my mom is so obsessed with our weight and so disappointed in us for being fat, even though she is a fat and my father was a fat.
And both sets of their parents and their parents were also fats.
Have all been fats. You know, we are profoundly Irish. We are built to hold on to potatoes because we don't know when the next potato is coming.
Right. We are built for famine. This is who we are. I think it's probably a bad idea for most people to have kids. I was saying this to a friend yesterday. Like, I remember thinking, and I really thought this too. I was like, well, you know what? Every generation that comes after mine is going to be great because their parents are going to have grown up in my generation instead of the other ones. And they're going to be really good parents. Even though, you know, people have more access to medication and mental health consultation, and it's becoming more and more of a thing. Oh my goodness. The parents in my generation have really done quite a job. I'm a person who decided what are my reasons? I think my reason was I just wanted to have the experience of being a mother. Like I felt like my life would be empty if I didn't do that. And I think I'm probably right. The times he's not around, I do feel an emptiness.
Well, and like right now, dude is with his grandparents for almost a month and she is suffering.
It's not good. But yeah, I have very much felt that like my purpose of being on this planet to raise a really good human to help elevate society. That was really my goal.
That is very selfless. And we've talked about this, that you desired to have a kid to correct your experience, right?
It's kind of an experiment. I'm doing 180 parenting. I'm thinking, okay, what did my parents do? How can I do
the opposite of
180? I mean, and I pretty much have.
Well, our parents raised us indoors.
Our parents fed us meals and kept us and we did have a house. But like, as far as my parenting style, and, you know, there have been a lot of times where I've deviated, unfortunately, but I really try to consistently do 180 from specifically what Dad did.
When you were speaking about your naivete about surely every generation of parents is just going to get better and better.
Right.
I personally, one of the things that I was very naive about was when we elected President Obama, I was like, well, no one's ever going to be racist anymore.
That's it. That was it. What you didn't know is that on the night of his election, the number one Google search was about hanging Black people.
No, I didn't know that. But I was like, this smart, capable, likable, charming man is going to prove to everybody that race is a construct and
the tide has finally turned. And then when Trump was elected, like millions of racists came out of the woodwork. But yeah, that's a depressing thing. When I was a kid, I was like, okay, well, these kids are racist jerks because their parents are. Right.
But those people will die. And then the next generations will be less and less racist. I think that that's hopefully true of Gen Z, but
I'm not sure. Any indoctrination in culture, you pass it down from one generation to the next. And I think, you know, racism is such a sticky wicket because I think a lot of people experience themselves as being anti-racist or non-racist, but we still have all these ideas that we're passing to everybody else.
Cultural ideas. Well, an interesting thing about your kid is that, you know, something that I've experienced through you is, you know, you raise a kid and for the first 5 years of their life, you are their main source of information. And so you're able to impart all the important things to them, you know, RuPaul's Drag Race, Freedia, Lizzo, Beyonce, you know, really just raise them right. But then as soon as this dude went to school, he just started reflecting back societal norms at us. Like no matter what you had said, he's just in the culture and he's just bringing home this stuff like he calls me a loser. And I said, why am I a loser, bud? And he's like, because you're old and you don't have kids. I'm like,
according to him, I'm also a loser. And I do technically have a kid.
You have had a kid.
But I am old.
You're a loser because you don't have a Range Rover like you.
I'm a loser because I don't have the new iPhone Pro, whatever the hell.
So it's like he's picking up on all these messages all the time. And that must be frustrating because
it really sucks. He says sexist crap. He says
these terrible YouTubers.
Yes, he's listening to these morons all day long. And he knows that it makes me mad. So he'll say something sexist that a YouTuber said or something that he knows is really going to burn me up. Hey, Mom, guess what?
Guess what I learned? So
I think women should be in the home.
Well, and like that brings me to another point. I do think that motherhood is something that has kept women down and has been like, there's all these ideas like, oh, women are just better with kids. Like women have like an innate.
Women are just more nurturing.
They're more nurturing. And that's BS. Like that is not true.
Who's that French lady that hates her son?
Yeah. Laura sent me an amazing TikTok about Brigitte Bardot, who, bless, she came in from a different generation and she didn't really have a choice. And she resents the heck out of her kid, was a terrible mom and said, I never wanted this, and generally was not good at it.
And wrote in her autobiography about what a crappy kid he was. But I think she proves the point that it is not some sort of biological imperative that you be a good parent just because you have boobs.
Right. And that every woman isn't designed for motherhood.
I think, I feel like just like I'm not designed to be a dentist and you're not designed to be a chiropractor.
I feel like I could be a chiropractor. I can crack them bones.
I just feel like this is everybody says this. I mean, I feel like some stereotypes are stereotypes because they're true. Like it is literally the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. Why would I just let some moron off the road have a kid? That doesn't make any sense to me.
So I think that motherhood is a tool of the patriarchy, like the idea that a mother is going to do everything for her kids and the male partner doesn't really have to do anything. I think that it keeps us down. Like the accomplishments of women in the last 40 years align directly with birth control. Like that's why we call it Planned Parenthood. Like when you have no control of your reproductive destiny, you aren't able to finish school. You aren't able to get a job. Like that's why we're still behind in the workforce.
So I think also because of the way that we think about being a parent and the way that we think about the way motherhood should look, I think that if we were living in more supportive cultures where it was more communal living, you could go back to school. But we don't have that either because of capitalism.
We have less and less community. You're expected to move wherever the work is. You're not staying close to your family the way that we used to. And so you're taking on the whole role yourself. I also wanted to talk about sterilization. When I was married, and it was very strange because I've told every serious partner that I've ever had pretty early on, I'm like, if this is super on your agenda and super on your bucket list, we got to cut and run because I'm not doing it. And the same thing was true with my husband. Like I told him very early, I'm like, I'm not doing this. After we'd been together a couple of years, he started kind of saying like, well, maybe we should though. And I was furious because I guess he has the ability to change his mind as well. And when he really put his foot down on it, I said, okay, well, I'm going to get sterilized. And in the end, that was the correct decision because that relationship didn't last. Yeah. So I made the decision to get sterilized. I had kind of a different experience. Maybe I think because my OBGYN was amazing. Many women in their 30s who asked to be sterilized get told no because they're like, well, we're worried you're going to change your mind.
Right. And you need to have a signed note from your husband.
Yeah. Sometimes your husband has to like weigh in on it, what you're going to do with your body. I didn't do any of that. I also have a method of sterilization that is no longer available on the market.
That's a little scary.
It was a little scary. A strange thing. It was called Escher.
I remember I had a client who I think she'd had 3 children and wanted to get her tubes tied. And she had to have a signed note from her husband in order to be able to do that.
And what can that be but patriarchy, you know?
Well, women aren't allowed autonomy in any realm. And I feel like, I think that motherhood is like diet culture in the sense that like, hey, let's distract them with all this crap so that they don't overthrow us.
Right. Because when you are keeping other human beings alive who, for the first couple years of their life, all they want to do is destroy themselves, They're just picking up knives and
and they don't want to sleep. Like I have a friend who has a 6-month-old. She hasn't slept in 6 months. Is she going to overtake anything? No.
She's too tired.
Yeah. And Emily and James haven't slept, in 2 years because Bill doesn't sleep.
Big Bill does not sleep. So anyway, yeah, I had a form of sterilization that was very, very easy and it was outpatient. Unfortunately, some people had complications with it. And so it is no longer on the market, but I've had a great experience. But in this environment where they've overturned Roe v. Wade, I will say there's been a lot of talk about vasectomies and how more men should have them.
A lot more men are having them right now, correct?
Yes, that is increasing. And I really, for our male listeners, of which there are several, if you know you don't want kids, do it.
Yeah, I had this conversation with a client. Like he's never wanted kids. It's never been a thing. Again, he has a heavy trauma background. He doesn't want to bring his own mental illness and his trauma history into the mix of having kids.
Twins.
He might be. And I remember having this conversation with him. He's in his 30s. And I said, what are you waiting for? Get a vasectomy. And he's like, well, if the right woman came along, she might change my mind. I was like, but let's really get in there and think about what being a parent actually means. Are you willing to not sleep for about probably 3 years? Are you willing to make all the sacrifices that come? Are you going to be responsible for another human's happiness and health and, mental experience? Like, it's so much pressure. Anyway, and he said no. And I said, okay, so go get a vasectomy.
And what, like in the post Roe v. Wade thing, like get a vasectomy has been a big like catchphrase. I will say they're not as reversible as people think. So like, if you want to have kids, like you shouldn't, but like it's easier for men to decide they want to have kids because they know they're not going to bear the brunt of the work. Like, yes, it's going to be hard, but I think most men assume that the wife is going to take most of that on.
Well, because everyone is pointing their finger at her. And if anything goes wrong, it's going to be her fault. So yeah, she will do that because she's being pressured from every side of society to do that.
So wrapping up this idea, Laura has, I think, the absolutely correct attitude, which is what you do with your body is your business. Like, I have always appreciated that about her. She's been one person who's never, ever said to me, you'll change your mind, or don't you think you want kids for that? Like, we have a running joke when her child does something awful. She'll say, are you sure you don't want to have kids? But what are your final thoughts on pros and cons of motherhood today?
My final thoughts are, if it's not a hell yes, then it should be a hell no. Unless you're 1,000% chomping at the bit to have a kid, just don't assume that anything in your mind or your belief system or your values is going to change. You are going to be the same person. So if you don't feel, I'm going to take this broken down building and I'm going to rebuild the whole thing brick by brick, unless you are 100% into that project, do not take it on, because it will be so much harder than you ever imagined it would be.
Yeah, you're going to be the same person you are now with your same limitations, your same trauma background. But you're going to be tireder.
Exactly. You're going to be broker and way more tired and way more frustrated, because that's the thing. Like, I remember I used to teach parenting classes before I had a kid. I was such a great parent before I had a kid. I was incredible. I knew everything. And I remember parents would say, so how many kids do you have? And when I would say, oh, well, I've taken my niece and nephew for the weekend. Yeah, that doesn't really cut it. Because I can be an amazing parent for 72 hours. I really can. I am an incredible parent for 72 hours. When I'm well rested and it ends, it's very easy. But I think there's a really good book called All Joy and No Fun. It's about parenting. You'll have these incredible moments of just devastating beauty and the human condition and just pride and excitement. And it is an incredible ride, but it costs a lot. And what are your final thoughts? Are you thinking about having kids?
I really think that's a beautiful way to put it. And I've accepted that there's experiences that I'm not going to have in life, but there's also experiences I'm not going to have. And
also there are experiences you're sparing your child from having, because you're going to keep being you. And I think, I don't think there's a kid that wants to live in your drawer and wants to, have a sitter take care of them 6 nights a week because you're out doing shows. That's not good for another person. I think that's the other piece, is you have to take responsibility that this is a human being and you are going to affect every part of their life for their entire life. Even, for example, their health. If I mess up parenting, I'm going to mess up my child's long-term health, physical and mental, if you look at ACEs scores. So it's a huge responsibility.
Laura has a very high ACEs score and she's very proud of it. That's the test for trauma.
I'm not proud of it. It's really depressing.
I talk about it all the time.
I talk about it a lot because I think a lot of people have high ACEs scores.
My final thoughts are, I do enjoy that, on purpose child-free is seen as more of an option than it ever has been. I definitely endorse people, if you're not into having kids, don't do it because your mom wants them. Don't do it because your friends are asking you, we're not going to be able to have play dates. And there's nothing in you as a woman that requires progeny to fulfill.
There's no shame in determining that this is not for you.
Right. And I don't even know if there's a maternal instinct because I've never experienced it, not once in my life. But
I don't know if I have seen joy in your eyes from your nieces and nephews.
I have enjoyed my nieces and nephews. I have volunteered to help kids with reading, which I've enjoyed. I have worked with children. Children are a lot of fun for other people, and that has to be an option.
And I think you know what? Children are a lot of fun part-time. Throw a Frisbee with a kid for 10 minutes in a park. It's great.
Delightful.
It's the other 23 hours and 50 minutes that are the issue.
I have started thinking about a thing where a big argument pro dog is that your dog is so stoked when you're just doing the bare minimum to keep them alive. Like every time I took Herschel out for a walk, it was a party. Every time I fed him, it was a smorgasbord. He just couldn't believe how great it was that I was keeping him alive. And then children don't do that. And I really think they could take a page from dogs.
You know what? I think you're right.
So them's our thoughts. If you want to have kids, absolutely fantastic. Do the best job you can. If you don't want to have kids, don't do it.
No sweat.
No sweat, babe.
Take all that money you're saving and put it in a retirement fund.
Yeah. We got plenty of people. You don't have to worry about that. We're not going to run out. Laura, do you have a listener review for us?
In fact, I do. This review is from Forest Cats, and the title is Great Variety of Sources. Husband listens to far more podcasts, so I found it was playing as he gets ready in the morning. I found the depth of fleshed out thoughts on each topic genuinely fascinating. Looking forward to more content as well as relatability. Thank you. Thank you, Forest Cats.
That is very thoughtful, and we appreciate it so, so much.
We certainly do. And if you, the listener, would like to be featured in this segment of our podcast, please submit a review to Apple Podcasts. Also, like and subscribe.
Now, Laura, where can people find you on the internet?
Well, they can find me at lauraryan.org. They can also find me on my TikTok. I am Laura Ryan. And if they want to write me or Virginia an email, they can write us at hello@mysistersatherapist.com. Or if they want to hire us for their women's convention or some other feminist thing, hire us at mysistersatherapist.com. I'll do a Comic-Con. And Virginia, where can people find you on these interwebs?
Thank you. You can find me at my website, vidinia.com. That's also my Instagram handle. Thank you guys so much for listening.
So in the immortal words of Billy Ray Valentine, the fine film, Trading Places, we can make it, baby. Me and you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.